You're listening to Rominger Radio.
The reason? Ship owners cannot find crew members to work on ships sailing to those ports. Fear they will become infected.
This is the largest international response in the history of the CDC.
The Ebola outbreak that is ravaging parts of West Africa is the largest, most severe, and most complex in nearly 4-decade history of this disease. This is Ebola Zaire, and the most deadly in the Ebola.
That's right, folks. There's nothing to worry about.
When change is in the air, you see things in a whole new way. It's in this spirit that...
Hey, good evening. Carl Rominger here. 717-916-5189. 717-516-89. 717-916-5189. If you have something to say, I'll take your call. If you don't feel like calling in tonight, well, that's well enough. I just want to update you what's going on with Ebola. Well, according to the Israeli press, this fella in Texas has died. According to U.S. press, he's in terrible condition. Are they prepping us for something? We don't want to break the news right away. We don't want to let the people know what's really happening. Oh, yeah, by the way, there was a homeless guy, and we lost track of him for a little while, but we're sure we know where he is, and we've got control of the situation. And we know where he's been and who he's exposed to. And he's only one of 38 that we're tracking because, well, we're not really tracking him because, you know, he only might have been exposed. And then in Newark, a hazmat team ran onto a plane to pull some passengers out. That was according to the British press. So, folks, where we're going to get our news, I would strongly urge you to pay attention to the international press. You know, quite often Americans don't get the whole story of what's going on in other countries. Well, this is one of the times when we don't get the story of what's going on in our own country. We're not going to be told. No one wants to tell us. And if you want to set me straight, go ahead, 717-916-5189. If you know why Ebola is no big deal and why I shouldn't be obsessed and worried about it and harping on this, call. Or if you just agree with me, I'll take some glad hand calls, 717-916-5189. I'll put you on the air as well. Hey, you want to suck up to me and say, hey, good job, Carl, I really agree with you? Great, I'll have you on the air. You want to challenge me? I would love to have you on the air. I want to know and I've had a couple of responses on Facebook today, like, Carl, you're a fear monger. You're just falling into this UFO conspiracy stuff. Oh, really? Why is the Israelis the only ones in the know? Why is the British press reporting what happened in Newark? Why isn't it Frontline News? Why when one of the ambulance drivers who drove the ambulance, I've got this all documented on my Facebook page, by the way. One of the guys who drove the ambulance after the Ebola patient was picked up, who we all agree is an Ebola patient, by the way. That part's not one of my conspiracy theories floating around in my head. In fact, they have an Ebola patient in a Texas hospital, picked up in an ambulance. When he was picked up in that ambulance, you know what they did with the ambulance? They put it right back into service. Had it been you or I down there in Dallas, little, I don't feel well, I got my ticker. Oh, it's the big one. You know, remember Fred Sanford, right? Fred Sanford. It's the big one. Well, had it been the big one, you'd have gotten in the ambulance that just had the Ebola patient in it because, well, they didn't take that ambulance out of service. They didn't do anything for 3 days. And a guy who drove the ambulance said, hey, wait a minute, I found out I drove the ambulance that had an Ebola patient in it. And he says it's bull crap, quote, bull crap that anybody's checking up on him. Nobody contacted him. He found out he had to contact the government himself. Same way they found out about the Ebola patient in the first place. Somebody had to contact the government themselves. And what's the White House have to say? Well, we can't shut down international travel from these countries. That would cause people to believe that there's a problem. For God's sakes, we know there's a problem. Fix it. How do we fix it? Why am I so angry? I'm angry because it's just endless political BS. Can't stop people from coming in from Liberia because that would cause people to think that there's a problem. Oh, wait, you got an Ebola patient in Texas, a homeless guy that had contact with him you lost sight of, an ambulance you let people use for days afterwards without telling them that the Ebola patient was in it. Oh, no, there's no problem here. Am I crazy? I don't think so. So let's channel my anger for a minute. What can we do? Well, we can demand that our government pay attention. We can demand that they tell us the truth, but they lie to us as it is. Remember what I told you the other day about nuclear war, right? They weren't going to tell us when the bombs were coming because crowd control, mass panic. Look it up on the web. Do a little research. You'll discover they couldn't even decide whether they were going to evacuate the cities or use bomb shelters. They realized early on that most people weren't going to leave anyhow, and that for the people that would create mass panic. So what was the answer? Well, we just won't tell anybody when the bombs are coming. We just won't tell anybody when the Ebola is here, and we won't just tell anybody when it's spreading, because that doesn't make for good governance. So if it's not spreading, they will say it's not spreading. If it's spreading out of control, they will say, pause inserted intentionally, it's not spreading. That's the only answer you're going to get, folks. That's it. That's all we're going to hear. That's all we're going to be told. So you can't trust the government for good information. That's why they don't want to tell you this guy died. That's why they don't want to confirm for the press. I dealt with the national press before, and I can tell you, they're very, very careful about multi-sourcing things. So as long as they only have one source, it's very hard for them to run with it. Now, if Drudge runs with it, they can report, well, according to Drudge, this. If the Israeli press ran with it, I guess they could now report, according to the Israeli press, but they want multiple independent sources at the national press. So Reuters, AP, those guys, their hands are tied a lot of times. They may be chomping at the bit to tell you something, trying to confirm something, but they usually won't just report something. So what are you going to do? Well, you're not going to get the truth, right? Let's do a little run-through here. Okay, well, The Onion has an article, How to Protect Yourself Against Ebola. I highly recommend that. Here. This is. I said, any brave nurses or doctors want to send me Ebola CDC signs that have at the hospital if the rest of us can see. See, I've been told that they're putting signs up at the hospital saying you have nothing to fear from Ebola. And of course, somebody says, here he goes again, spreading fear among listeners, forgetting what he stands for. Don't we get enough from the controlled media? Well, Hubba Bubba, I stand for a lot, and what I stand for is the truth. And when I have to go to the Daily Mail, a UK-based paper, Ebola scare at Newark. CDC officials rush to airport in full hazmat suits and detain passengers after a Liberian man traveling with his daughter begins vomiting on flight. Ill man does not have Ebola, they say. He's another minor illness which is easily treatable. True? Well, I don't know. They tried to tell us that Edward Snowden was just some low-level hiree analyst until, it turned out that he actually was like a keynote speaker at some major international convention on intelligence. Hey, I can just believe what the government says. Just believe what the government says. Well, what else we got? Well, we've got, according to the Israelis, let me tell you, Israel National News, first U.S. Ebola patient dies. Thomas A. Duncan became ill Ebola after arriving from West Africa in Dallas 2 weeks ago, succumbed to virus today, Sunday, reports Reuters. Duncan was fighting for his life at Dallas Hospital today after his condition worsened critical, according to Director of Centers for Disease Control. That's what they say in Israel. But when you Google search it, you can't quite see that. Well, maybe by now you can. But as of an hour ago, nope, you weren't going to be told. We don't want the people to know. We don't want you to know. How about this? How about this from our friends at the White House? Let me just read you the last two paragraphs. Despite the fears, White House infectious disease experts have ruled out at least one solution